One question that I often get asked is whether or not a wall needs skimming with plaster or whether it can be filled and sanded. This is not a simple question, and there is no right or wrong answer to this question without actually seeing the wall. However, in this video I'm going to fill and sand a wall that has some extensive damage. At least 4 people have seen this wall when it was stripped, and all 4 of them asked if I was going to skim it with plaster. Sometimes applying a skim coat is the best option, but it can add a considerable time to a job due to the time it takes the wall to dry before it can be painted. This is the wall which has previously been plastered. The property is roughly 40 years old. This wall was covered with wood chip wallpaper, which was hiding most of the damage, but there was also some new damage which was caused when removing the wood chip. The first step is to ensure the wall is clean. To do this I'm using a Lloyd sponge and some sugar soap solution. I'm also using a scraper to remove any remains of the wallpaper. To start with, I'm using a filling knife to fill the gouges in the wall. This is the most time-consuming part of the job. I'm using Gyproc easi-fill, which dries very quickly. I should be able to fill and sand and paint the wall with a mist coat in just one day. You can of course use whichever filler you prefer to fill the damage, but I prefer to use the Gyproc easi-fill as it's very easy to use and dries very quickly. I'm using the knife to fill all of the damage so that it is flush or slightly proud of the surface. If the filler is proud of the surface, it will soon be sanded flush at the next stage. You can see that there is considerable damage to this wall, but this will soon be fixed and will look like a new wall in a few hours. I'm going to speed this part up to prevent you getting bored, but filling the entire wall probably took about an hour. Here you can see some historical damage that has been filled before the wall was papered. This was a very poor attempt at filling the hole, but I can soon cover it and then sand it flush. Now that the damage has been filled, it's time to start sanding, so a good quality dust mask is essential. To do the sanding, I'm using a Mirka Deros, which is attached to a vacuum cleaner. This means that you can sand in a virtually dust-free environment. If you don't have a Mirka Deros, you can use a sanding pole and sandpaper. Once the wall has been sanded, it's a good idea to give it a wipe down with a sponge and some clean water to remove any dust which can interfere with the adhesion of the paint. It's now time to mix some paint, as I now need to apply a mist coat. A mist coat is just a watered down coat of non-vinyl emulsion paint. I'm mixing the supermat with some cold clean water to the instructions on the paint can, which I think was 20%. The use of a drill and the mixer paddle makes this job much easier. It's now time to put the mist coat on the wall, so I'm using a brush to cut in at the edges and the small emulsion roller for the rest of the wall. If the wall is large, it's much easier and faster using a larger roller. Once the paint is applied at the edges, I'm using the roller to roll out the paint. This is to ensure there are no visible brush marks. Apply the paint evenly, ensuring you get good coverage on all of the wall. Once the mist coat has dried, you can then apply a top coat of paint. Hopefully this video will have proved that you do not always need to employ a plasterer to get a wall skimmed. A lot of the time you can simply fill the damage, sand it and then paint it. This is a picture of the wall once it was finished. It really does look like a brand new wall. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already.